Hi, welcome to a new episode in the Internet Surfer, hosting the most horror and creepiest stories from Reddit. Please don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy.
What story do you say that no one believes until you provide proof? Episode 2. I live in the southeast part of South Carolina and am lucky enough to work at a nice golf course. If you are familiar with the area, you will be able to figure out which. Time to time we get some random rich people who come in and make a big deal of themselves, their entourage tailing them and whatnot, just the regulars who like to make a special day of being among society. However, one day I was doing my thing as a caddy, mostly just sitting around. Our normal clients like to choose the younger guys to be their club bearers since they blend in with their posses better, more photogenic. My receding hairline didn't quite lend itself to their tastes, and I see Bill Murray come in. He was hard to spot compared to the other golfers in their full garb, while he was wearing a sweater that looked like it was knitted by his blind grandmother in some sweatpants. I was internally freaking out. Here's Bill Murray casually hanging out for a day of golfing. None of the children I work with recognize him since they are all busy pandering to the highbrow customers, and it is my prime opportunity to be the caddy of his dreams. I must have been staring though, and after casually fighting a vending machine for some food he noticed it and came over and told me, "It's my day off and I need someone who won't rat me out when I throw my ball out of a trap or drive the carts across the green." He must have liked it when I responded that it is only a violation of the rules if he uses a slingshot to get out of the sand. Terrible response, I know, since he handed me a worn-out bag full of some of the nicest clubs I had seen someone bring in. The rest of the day was awesome. It was like hanging out with a fun uncle, not the one who touches you. At some point after the fifth hole, he pulled out his hip flask and a sandwich and we sat around for a bit. Things got fun after this. He convinced me to reenact the scene in Space Jam where MJ got sucked into the hole. Only a few people got it, so we went ahead and had a golf cart race, and after I started winning, he declared that style points were in effect, at which point he started trying to drive off some of the course's more formidable and ramp-like hills to get air. He either broke the cart or drained the battery and it stopped working, but in a flourish worthy of a Die Hard movie pointed it towards a fake lake and dove out as it slowly sank a foot into the water. I drove by shouting, "We got to go, they're coming. We have to go," and he leaped onto the back of my cart, laying one of his clubs on the roof to be my gunner, throwing golf ball grenades at passerby. My supervisor must have gotten word of me careening around the course with a wild man and tried to chase us down, and when we saw him coming Bill screamed, "We can't let the man bring us down. We've got too much riding on this." I naively asked him what he meant, and he replied, "Just pretend I have 6 grams of weed in my golf bag, and as my caddy it's your duty to make sure no one but us smokes it." We made a break for it, heading for the tree lean, a little too directly towards it as we crashed into a tree, and hid among the trees like Bigfoot and company. There was no way they could see us once we got into the foliage. Then Bill promptly pulled out his piece hidden inside a driver's sock along with the weed I was tasked to protect. You are not going to not smoke with Bill Murray, so we sparked up all 6 grams and ate all the berries in the area we could find. We spent what felt like a great many numbers of hours reenacting more scenes from his movies along with a respectable number of lines I am certain he made up on the spot until we were sure the course had closed. Then, he stood up, handed me his piece, and said, "We'll have to do this again sometime." He began walking away, deeper into the trees from which his final words echoed, "No one will ever believe you." I returned to the clubhouse, drenched in sweat and dirt and smoke to see my supervisor. Oddly, he looked at me as if nothing had ever happened and said he would see me at work tomorrow. Then just before I left, he said, "By the way, your customer left you a tip." It was an envelope with my name scrawled in Bill's handwriting, and inside was another 2 grams of weed along with Bill's lighter and a note saying, "I may have eaten some wild mushrooms out there and forgot to give you these. B.M." When I was 16, some kids from our high school got to go to live with Inuit way up at the top of Canada. It was cool. We discovered pingos, tit-shaped ice heaves, high-speed snow mobiles, aurora borealis, and hash. Quite a week. Anyway, one day we went ski-dooing across the frozen Mackenzie River Delta. When we stopped to eat, the guy leading our group drilled a hole in the ice and tossed in a match. It lit like a Bunsen burner and the guy cooked lunch. Over a hole. In the ICE. It was the most impressive thing. Okay, so we come back and tell all kinds of remarkable stories, watching northern lights lying in a snowbank at -30 degrees, believable. Eating musk ox, believable. Tit-shaped tundra mounds, believable and titillating. Lighting a river on fire and cooking, of all things, eggs? Totally unbelievable. 30 years later I am watching TV with my wife and kids and they do it. On TV. But no one saw it, so I am still in the same spot. Still, very cool. I went to Toronto one summer to meet up with a girl I dated in college, and after walking around downtown, she wanted to take me to Toronto Island and just chill, away from the city. Which then turned into, oh, wow, there is really a clothing-optional beach? Let us check it out. I mean, if you are with a girl and she wants to gear down on the beach, then why not? Being a bit of a prude, however, I kept my trunks on for about half an hour, before realizing that is how you do get looked at. Once we Adam and Eve are it, no one batted an eye. Disappointingly, not a lot of females at a nude beach. Just saying that for the record. Until we got challenged into a volleyball game. Again, why not? Got to know this one nice couple. A 40-something Italian man and his hot 30-something girlfriend. They shared their packed lunch, couple of beers, nice folks. So, we got to talking. What do you do for work? Isn't this nice? Get away from the city, etc. Turns out, he makes adult movies. Suddenly Burt Reynolds' Boogie Nights. His girlfriend winks occasionally. But hell, he keeps saying, we are all here to get away from work, right? So, the sun gets low, and they extend the invitation to join them in the revolving restaurant up in the CN Tower for dinner, with another couple. I mean, for pornographers, they seemed nice and there was not any real pressure going on. My friend graciously declined, and I had to be somewhere to meet up with someone from McMusic and I was stoked for that, so I said no thanks. But they insisted, please, call your friend, you will just be a couple of hours, come up and have a drink. Our treat. So, I called my friend on his GF cell. Buddy on the other end is like, whose phone is that? I would explain later. So, I hug my friend goodbye later the mainland, promised to tell good stories later, and Giovanni and his lady pay my fare and up we go to the revolving CN Tower restaurant. Another young couple, a few steaks, and a few bottles of wine later, the GF's playing footies under the table and giving me the eye. He follows me into the men's room and says, hey. She really likes you, man, and just for fun. Why not come home, we will talk another time about a couple of parts, give you a name, bang some hot tail, etc. You know, buttering me up with compliments and whatnot. And again. Go for his GF, man. It is all good. At that point I smiled and politely declined, then looked at the time. I promised my friend, hey. I will call you, thanks. So, he gave me his card, I said my goodbyes. Got a curious open-mouthed kiss from his GF, and promised to call, and I rushed for the elevator. Sitting on the subway minutes later, sunstroke and drunk, I made it to my friend's house and showed him the card. And no, I never called back. The details of my life are quite inconsequential. Very well, where do I begin? My father was a relentlessly self-improving boulangerie owner from Belgium with low-grade narcolepsy and a penchant. My mother was a 15-year-old French named Chloe with webbed feet. My father would womanize, he would drink. He would make outrageous claims like he invented the question mark. Sometimes he would accuse chestnuts of being lazy. The sort of general malaise that only the genius possesses and the insane lament. My childhood was typical. Summers in Rangoon, luge lessons. In the spring we would make meat helmets. When I was insolent, I was placed in a burlap bag and beaten with reeds, standard really. At the age of 12 I received my first scribe. At the age of 14 a Zoroastrian named Vilma ritualistically shaved my testicles. There really is nothing like a shorn scrotum, it is breathtaking, I highly suggest you try it. A horse stepped on my face after bucking me off and shattered my jaw. The only reason I was not totally obliterated was because I had braces and they were much stronger than the bones in my face, holding everything semi-together. I don't have any proof other than a small scar on the bottom of my chin because I was only 12 when this happened, and I was so embarrassed by how disgusting my face looked after getting plastic reconstructive surgery that I wouldn't let my mom or anyone else take any pictures. My mom says she thinks she lost all the X-rays as well. So, my friends think I am just a big pussy who is afraid of horses for no reason. Lame. On weekends I moonlight as an entertainer dealer. I deal craps, blackjack, poker and roulette for private parties, company Christmas parties, proms, charities, and the like. It is all for fake money, the pay is not that great, but I get to go to a lot of various places and meet lots of interesting people. So, one day a few years back, I get a call from the girl that books my casino parties. Dan, we have a party for you, it's going to be a bachelor party, and there are going to female entertainers there. Do you have a problem with that? The holy grail of casino parties, a bachelor party with strippers. I respond immediately with, yes. I will work. I was given an address and told to come early and come in through the back. On the day of the party, I arrive early as told, and get to the address to find out that it's being held at the back room of an Italian restaurant reserved for private parties. It is a spacious room, the setup crew already came and had the game table set up, food and appetizers were out, and I was told we could eat whatever we want. I looked around the room and noticed there were a lot of tables out. 3 poker tables, a full weird game, 3 blackjack tables, and a roulette. That's enough spots for 75 players. I am thinking this is a huge bachelor party. I was working on the crap game that night, my favorite game, and once guests start arriving I turn to pit boss who is sitting in the box seat, that's in the middle of the crap table on the dealer side, and ask, who's the bachelor boy? He tells me, this isn't a bachelor party. It's for an offshore gambling company. I look around and realize that all the guys around me were all Italian guys who look straight out of The Sopranos, all talked with what I would call East Coast accents. I realized had stepped into a whole different world. 30 minutes go by, the tables get filled up very quickly, action is heavy, and everyone knows how to play. People are smoking cigars inside, my eyes start to burn from all the smoke. I said hate it if I have to breath in this I might as well have a smoke myself. I bum a cig from one of my players and smoke it while dealing my side of the table. Out of the corner of my eye I see the kitchen doors swing open and out step 3 gorgeous girls in nothing but panties and high heels. All of them had big fake boobs, 2 were brunettes and a blonde. One of the brunettes looked to be Italian and had a darker complexion with beautiful curly hair. I will get back to her later. The room immediately burst with a roar of cheers and applaud. The girls start making their rounds around the room. Stroking guys' chest, as they pass by, they get pulled in many directions. Sitting on their laps while they play a few hands of poker, or serving as a beer holder while they throw the dice. The Italian girl I mentioned earlier was servicing guys in the men's room. She would spend some time with a guy, whisper something in his ear, and she would walk them into the men's room, holding their hands. The guys she brought in would always walk out a few minutes before she would with big grin on their face. And she would come back out and look for her next customer. Fast forward to the end of the night, we were contracted to deal for 4 hours and told that we could say for the show after we are done. After we closed out the tables, get our pay checks for the night, and got a cash tip of $100, which is exceedingly rare to get any tip at all since we deal for play money. Of course, all the dealers go back in and stay for the show. We get back inside to find a bed sheet laid out in the middle of the room and all the guys were seated in a big circle around it. In the center were the 3 girls, and a black duffel bag. One of the girls pulls out some candles and starts lighting them and placing them around the 3 of them. She then pulls out a few dildos and long black double-sided dildo and places them on the floor. The girls then started to play with each other, pouring hot wax on each other, using the toys on one another. The whole time this is happening, guys are cheering and throwing dollar bills into the center. At one point a very elderly Italian man walks out to the center with a big wad of cash in his hands, mumbles something in Italian and throws the wad of cash on the back of one of the girls while she was on all 4. The room erupted with cheers after that. The show ended. If you have ever seen Requiem for a Dream and the scene at the end where the guys are all screaming ass to ass. Ass to ass. It was just like that. I managed to take a few pics before getting yelled at by someone, no pictures. Could not wait to tell my friends and show the pictures for proof. I backed them up to a hard drive, which later crashed on me. And did not realize that I had lost my only proof of this incredible night until way later. When I was in junior high, my school had a reading program where you read a book and then take a test afterwards. If you passed the test, you get rewarded with points. Points were based off the difficulty of the book. The winner at the end of the year would receive a big prize. It was getting close to the end of the year, and I was in second place and the boy in first place was the future class valedictorian who had just won the school a huge grant. I had just finished reading Stephen King's It, which was worth more than any other book. I then asked my teacher to take the test on the book. I will never forget what she said. Brandon has done a lot for this school and deserves to win this. Do you think you deserve to win? Me being I did not say anything. Since then, I have told this story to several people, including Brandon. Of course, no believes that the teacher would ever say that to me. I guess the fact that I was a C student did not help my case much either. I was in Arizona, spending time with my grandfather for Thanksgiving a few years back, when he had to be rushed to a hospital in Phoenix. He was having severe pain, and it was quickly diagnosed that he had appendicitis. We all rushed down there. My dad rented a motel for the remaining nights we were supposed to be in Arizona and kept eyes on Papa. My mother's best friend lives in Phoenix as well, so she was on the phone with her, keeping her updated about what was going on while letting her calm my mother down. The next day, during tests, and after removing my grandfather's appendix, they found colon cancer. He had battled cancer before. My Nana came to inform us in the waiting room and then told us she was going to spend time with my grandfather, but that we should come back around dinner time, and we would go out. My cousins were there too, and we were all leaving the next day, except for one of my aunts, so it was our family holiday closer, even if Grandpa could not join us. With nothing to do, my mom arranged with her best friend for us to come over. Her best friend's son and future daughter-in-law were there, but it was no big deal. With everything going on, we were more than welcome. The entire time, I was withdrawn. Family joked family. Spirits were light and no one really was thinking about my grandfather, except me. It was while I was withdrawn, sitting in the middle of my mom's best friend's backyard, when I felt a wet nose against my hand. I looked up at a dog and smiled, putting my hand out for the dog to smell. The dog smelled it and then rubbed against it, going as far as to give me kisses while I began to pet it. This was when my mom said aloud, "Be careful, Jess. That's the wolf." I vaguely remembered my mom telling me her friend got a wolf but did not think she was serious. At that point, my mom's best friend began to explain how they found Kira, the wolf's name, was an actual wolf. When they bought her, they thought she was part wolf, but 4 vets, including one who deals solely with wildlife, said otherwise. The county had also investigated the matter and she was registered with Arizona as a wolf. My mom's friend discussed the precautions they had to take and that they had never seen Kira be so friendly. It had taken her future daughter-in-law months before the wolf warmed up to her. By this time, Kira was letting me pet the underside of her neck and even hug her slightly. She was very affectionate and seemed to become more relaxed with me the more I pet her. My father had to mess it up by trying to get some wolf love. Kira then got upset and ran off. She growled at all of us after that, and my mother's best friend asked us if we wanted to go inside. I did not want to, but joined the rest of the group as expected of me. It is rumored/legend that wolves have connections with human feelings. My mom believes the wolf could sense that I was down and wanted to help. I was sitting in the grass, not even noticing her, and not making noise, therefore she felt safe around me. Either could be true. No one believes me until my mom or dad backs it up. Even then, when my mom's best friend comes to town, she backs it up further and even remarks on how strange it was for Kira to treat me as if she had known me for months, when it had only been minutes or hours. Sadly, her ex took the wolf in the divorce. It upset her terribly. My mom's best friend loved her wolf. She may have pictures. I would have to ask. Then it would be a story I could back up with pictures instead of calling witnesses, smiley face. In college and drinking at our apartment before going out. As we leave to catch the bus, we see a huge truck in our parking lot, and in the back is this giant blue elephant. Did not think much of it until we were hammered and back home. We somehow got the straps and locks off it and were able to get it out of the truck and carried it into an undeveloped area behind our apartment. Played around with it, climbed up, and took pictures. The next morning no one really said anything about until the afternoon. We were really drunk, so we just forgot about it, and no one had a clear recollection of what happened. We told some friends about it, but they did not really believe us, and we really did not have proof. Until I developed pictures from a camera about 6 months later. And found these blue elephant 1, blue elephant 2, blue elephant 3. Once, at the shop I work in, I was discussing my love for photography with my coworker. I was explaining some of the basics to him, and he was very intrigued. Conversation then shifted to women, as it often does, particularly one of our busted coworkers. Then we started to talk about how one day, I could combine my love of women and my love of photography and have a fancy photo shoot with some women, preferably in the nude. A day or two passes, and I have already forgotten about these unrelated conversations, until the same friend approaches me in the store one day and says, "John, I've found someone." I replied with something like, "Someone for what?" But my friend barely lets me finish. He then says he has found someone for what he referred to as our dream. I was very confused. I had no idea what dream he was talking about, but he then told me that the coworker we had been talking about recently was down for a photo shoot. That kind of photo shoot. It was one of those things that a certain amount of planning went into, but no one expected to happen until it did. Before I knew it, this girl was in my amateur studio, ready and willing to participate in the photo shoot, with nothing on. It was a wonderful time. But that is not even the best part. A few months later she came back to visit and said, "John, showed my roommate some of the pictures you took of me. And she was wondering if you could do the same for her," and so I did. Her roommate came along, and we had a second photo shoot. With the first girl, and her new friend, who was even hotter. The story will go down in history. This is not mine, but of my economics teacher a few years back. I will put a TLDR at the bottom. So, back in 2004, my econ teacher and his then girlfriend, wife now, decided to take a trip up to Washington, D.C. to do some touristy stuff around the city. They of course did the usual thing and visited all the monuments of the course of a few days. On their last day there, they caught wind of the president doing an impromptu speech in front of the Capitol building, or near the White House, I am not sure. So, both make their way down to the area setting up. DCPD is already there and has set up the usual barricades and fences to keep out any would-be assassins. His girlfriend goes down and gets as close as she can, and before she goes, she asks him to let her know when the president's motorcade was on its way. He looks around and finds a low wall separating one area from another. Naturally he climbs it and gets an excellent vantage point of the street and a few hundred meters down both ways. Now after about a half hour of waiting, Secret Service snipers begin to set up around the surrounding rooftops. My teacher has not noticed this yet and keeps looking down both sides of the street. His girlfriend turns around and does the universal shrug look, wondering where the president is. He looks down both streets and, through some form of hand signals, tells her not yet. This happens several times over the course of 15 minutes. When he finally sees the motorcade, he starts signaling her, typical arm flailing, that he can see it. And out of the corner of his eye, he sees something shift. He looks over in that direction and one of the SS snipers has his rifle trained on my teacher. He, who has spent years in the Marines, does not make a move, knowing how these guys act. Any sudden movements and his innards are all over the pavement. He looks over at the other rooftops and sees sniper numbers 2 and 3 are also trained on him. At this point he has 3 large caliber rifles aimed directly at him. At this point, he looks behind the low wall to see if he can just lower himself off without getting shot. And there is this man standing directly behind him, in the usual jogger gear. Then he notices something, the stereotypical clear earpiece. You see them, right? Yeah. Why are you up there? My girlfriend's wondering where the president is for his speech. Okay, I'm going to have to ask you to get down. Okay. And after that, the SS jogger calls off the snipers and my teacher get down, visibly shaken and terrified. His girlfriend finds him, behind the wall after the speech. He was in almost full fetal position the entire time. None of us believed him until he showed us a photo his girlfriend took of the president during the speech. She was in the picture too. I was driving, and some asshole comes flying up behind me, zooms by me, and jerks right in front of me, so he could take a right turn on Colfax. Well, needless to say I followed him because I was going the same way as him to go home. We got into a bit of a speeding race, then he threw a Coke bottle out of his car and broke my side mirror. So, we got to a stoplight. There was 2 lanes that went straight, and one that went left. He was in the left lane, and I in the left straight lane. A police officer sitting in the 7-11 parking lot saw us being little children, and stuck his light on us. As soon as the light turned green, he took his left turn, and so did I. Well, this made the police officers angry, because they came blaring down after me, and I tried to speed away, but the other guy was already in front of me speeding off, and I was in the back. There was no escape. So, I pulled over. And instead of the police officer pulling behind me, he pulled out the side to let his partner out to watch me. As soon as his door opened, I screamed, OMG, he was pointing a gun at me, go 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 go, and before I could say, I'll stay here, they both jumped in their car and sped off towards the other unlucky fun. I waited till they were a block away, killed my lights, and drove the rest of my 3 blocks home and backed my van into my carport and watched for them. They never came looking. When I was about 11, I was admitted to the hospital with some kind of mysterious illness. I was in rough shape. They did not know what was wrong with me and ran all kinds of tests, including a lower lumbar puncture, aka a spinal tap, to check for spinal meningitis. The lousy resident road made a mistake and inserted the syringe in the wrong place. I heard the prick say, "Oh, that's not right, I should have gone lower," and managed to poke something in my spinal cord. I was wheeled into a room after where I was completely paralyzed from the waist down for about 3 hours. Nobody came to check on me in that time, so I could not even tell a road until after the feeling had started coming back. I am surprised. I could not feel or move anything below the waist. He did not believe me. Nobody believes me and I cannot even prove it. People just claim I am a liar. I spent this past Easter with Lady Gaga. My good friend who hosted the Big Easter, her fiancé's best friend dates Lady Gaga. I spent about 30 minutes talking amongst her and friends until someone finally told me who she was. Yes, She was wearing big high heels and a short skirt. She even made some amazing Asian fusion noodle dish. She tried some of my mom's handmade Italian cookies that were sent from the East Coast to me, San Diego. My mom still does not believe me till this day. She is an old Italian woman who insists she would be hanging out with rich people on Easter, not you. I did not get any pictures, because the party was pretty laid back and no one was really asking her for pictures. Did not want to be that guy, especially since I do not really get starstruck. Nevertheless, she is cool and look forward to bumping into her again at next Easter or another party my friend hosts. I was in Vegas with a friend of mine. We are at the MGM Grand waiting for the elevator to take us down into the lobby when it stops, and the doors open to reveal none other than Christopher Walken. We enter, he gives us a casual nod, and we shuffle past him to stand in the back of the elevator. My friend and I exchange looks of amazement as we both knew it was him, but we do not have anything to say. I could tell he was aware of our communication behind him, but figured he is used to it being a big celebrity and all. We get to the bottom floor, the doors open, Walken takes a couple of steps into the lobby, turns around and says, "You know? They will never believe you," read it in Walken voice, it sounds much better, and then just walks away. I was scared. Coolest guy ever. Sorry, no proof. The year was 1988. It was a time before camera phones. Me and a friend were at Village Square Theater in Florissant, Missouri, which was a $1 cinema at the time. The cinema backed right up to a major highway and had a billboard-sized lighted marquee. I only remember 3 of the 4 movies that were showing that night, the 3 whose titles I combined when I climbed the ladder to the blazing lighted sign. The 3 movies were Die Hard, Gorillas in the Mist, and Cocktail. I combined the 3 to make Hard Gorilla Cock. This was my finest moment, and in a world before YouTube, it only plays in my memory. I met Flava Flav at Target once. He was there buying a cart full of toys for his son who was turning 4 to 5 at the time. Anyways, I was behind him in line at the checkout while he was flashing his thick wad of cash and jangling his watches and jewelry all over the place with a mouth full of grills. All the employees came and shook his hand when he finished paying, in which my mom said, "Oh look honey, they're being nice to that retarded man." I about died and had to explain to her who he was. She did not believe me until he got into his limo parked right in front of the no parking zone. If you are wondering if he really acts like he does on TV, he really does.
My boyfriend used to work at a restaurant that served hot wings. They were not great hot wings, they were just Cisco brand frozen wings that they stuck in the fryer, tossed in wing sauce, and served. He had the day off, so we went into his place of work for happy hour. He ordered wings for us to share, and we started eating. I picked one up and told him it looked weird. He brushed me off and told me to just eat it. I thought I was holding the less meaty end of a drumstick, but it was splitting in 2. I soon realized I was holding a deep-fried, wing sauce-coated chicken head by the end of its beak. It was not a prank because it barely looked like a head and the cooks could not tell it was a head when they cooked it because it was all breaded and frozen. This is a picture I show people when I tell the story. This is after we took the breading off to take a picture of to show Cisco. Chicken head.
Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. The Internet Surfer on YouTube for more horror and scary stories.